for joining me on the internal communications series that I run on my blog. As you know, this thought leadership series where I ask leaders to talk about their experiences with internal communications, some of the best practices. So, really appreciate you taking the time to join me on the series. It'll be great if you could, before we begin, if you could introduce yourself for our viewers.
Absolutely. And Anishu, thank you so much for inviting me on this platform. You did use the word thought leader, and I'm not too sure if I qualify, to be very honest. But I think that you yourself are doing a great job about it. First of all, I just want to compliment you on Intrascope, which I think is probably the only blog dedicated to communication, specifically internal communication. I think you're doing a great job there.
Thank you.
I hope that more of the people from our community, that is our internal communications community, should kind of put words out there and educate people about it. I myself included. So thank you again for inviting me. I lead internal communication for MasterCard for the South Asia region. I am based out of Pune, and I work out of their Pune office, which is also known as the India Technology Hub, which is the second largest technology hub for MasterCard in the world, and of course the largest outside of the US. And I've been with MasterCard for about 2 years now, and obviously it's really been a good experience for me. Overall in communications, I have about close to 13, 14 years of experience. My background, education-wise, has been in mass communication. Even before that, I don't know if this is valuable information, but I have been somebody who has kind of been a drifter when I was, back in my college days. I kind of dropped out of engineering and found my way into the arts, and then took up mass communication and really fell in love with storytelling as such in general, whatever medium it be. In fact, I worked in a film production house for quite some time before really, generating a lot of interest in the business world, because I was a part of an agency, and then used to meet a lot of people from businesses, and usually my interactions were with people who manage brands, communicators like ourselves,
Right.
and that really grew me interested in the field, and eventually I did the switch and started working as they see on the client side, right?
Right.
And yeah, and it's been a very good journey so far.
Fantastic. And I noticed that you studied in the UK as well. You done your MBA there. Is that right?
No, so it was a university affiliation. So the college was in India, but the affiliation was with the University of Wales.
Okay, fantastic. That's great. Thank you for introducing yourself. And I know it's great to have you on the show. So let me begin by asking you the first question. So what does internal communications mean to you? How would you describe
it? Okay. I think internal communications to me, again, maybe it's kind of a biased view because I have been in the field for so long, and this has been what I've been doing for so many years. But I think that to give you a kind of a broad definition, I feel that it's a very strategic function that really guides and enables to deliver value in terms of communication. For instance, to connect the organization with what I think is the most prized and important asset for an organization, which are the employees. And I think that that's exactly why it's really important that connection and to keep that communication alive. And sometimes when I speak with my friends and colleagues, I usually compare it with our own internal dialogue, right? Because I feel that organizations, just like human beings that are really healthy, both mentally and physically, are those who are aware and are connected within. And I feel that internal communication really drives that for an organization.
Fantastic. I like the analogy you used of organizations and humans, and so that's a great way to put it. So if you can explain how does it get practiced in your organization or any of the organizations you have worked in the past?
Well, in MasterCard, I've been fortunate because it's an evolved organization. It's a very forward-looking organization, and hence communication as a whole is like a partner to our senior leadership, not only in driving, for business objectives, but also really strengthening the culture, collaborating with other functions to, manage and drive change, and also really drive advocacy, employee advocacy. And I think that that is made possible because we lay so much emphasis on our employees and consider them as one of the greatest assets. It's a very employee centric organization, and I feel that in even other organizations, the styles and the approaches to the techniques may be different, but those organizations that are evolved and understand the value of keeping their employees connected, and not only value in terms of I'm not talking about hygiene factors, but real business value that it can bring. I think that makes the practice really easy for a professional.
Interesting. Very, very interesting point about adding value and, bringing that connection for the business. So, so if you could share an example of a campaign or, something where you have personally worked on, you feel proud about, and, how, what is the kind of significant impact that it made?
Sure. Well, before I answer that, I just wanted to say that there are a lot of things that we do every day, right? And I think that although I would obviously tell you maybe an example, but in addition to that, there are so many daily things that we as communicators do every day, which cannot be categorized in, say, a grand example, right? I can't, for instance, it may not be a campaign. And I feel that those things, when we do them on a daily basis in a sustainable, consistent manner, have way more impact, which is very difficult to kind of present in a fancy manner, if I may call it that. It can be as simple as the newsletter that you get every day, and get some value out of it, or it is a very important announcement that comes right on time from your leader. And I think that all those things put together drive immense value. And I just wanted to call that out before I give you a specific example. Because I think as communicators, a lot of times we don't really value a lot of things that we do every day. And I feel like those are the things that add small drops to the ocean.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, just to pick an example from my recent memory, MasterCard, we drove this program. The intention of the program was to really talk about our employer brand and what MasterCard adds, how MasterCard adds value to our employees, and do that in a way that doesn't sound like corporate speak, right? Because we see so many advertisements and things out there that really that tell you that, oh, it's written, you know what I mean? And hence we thought that we should really bring out some real stories, because we had so many real stories. There have been real impact that the organization has made on people. Hence we started something which is inspired by Humans of New York, which is a very famous handle and a Facebook page. And so we started something called Humans of MasterCard. Shamelessly copying the concept, but I think it was really interesting because we had some really powerful, emotionally connecting stories there, and these we could share both internally as well as externally. And I think we kind of killed two birds with a stone, because it not only gave us a kind of a platform to talk about our employer brand, but it also gave a platform for our employees to kind of showcase their stories. So it kind of gave them that recognition. And another thing why I picked this particular campaign is that these kind of stories, because these are bite-sized, really shareable format stories. They also offer you a lot of flexibility, because of course you can run it as a mailer, you can run it as, say, an electronic bulletin board, but at the same time you can tie these stories to certain campaigns that you're doing. For instance, we were running this campaign. There was Women's Day around the corner, and we then use stories that talked about how we add value to our women employees, and that kind of ties into a lot of other things. So I think that is one thing that I wanted to just point out there.
So if I could just extend that thought, I mean, what are the ways in which you measured the success of that particular campaign? Because I know this is this very emotionally, very emotive, but
Yeah.
was there a tangible way in which you could measure the value of this?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question because and measurement a lot of times also sometimes a challenge also because of technology, right? And I think that as professionals, I'm sure you know this, and other professionals as well, that a lot of times we are kind of constrained by that.
Right.
But I think because this had that amount of flexibility that we could also share it not only internally but also on social media. A great
Correct.
metric for us was also the engagement numbers that we could draw from social media,
Correct.
both from our handle but also retweeted by by our employees. So a lot of those social stats sharing numbers, when we connected it to campaigns, we could also say insert a link on one of those stories, and we could also say measure how many clicks landed on the landing page that we designed for the campaign. So the beauty of the campaign, or the idea in fact, was that it was very flexible and could be fit into other campaigns that had measurability options built in, and
Correct.
hence it was a little easier for us.
Fantastic. That's a great way to explain that. Yeah, if I were to ask you, what is the biggest challenge you face while managing communications? What?
Ah, biggest challenge. I think I think the most well acknowledged challenge would be really piercing through the clutter, right? Because I think all of us face that challenge. There are so many emails, so many distractions that we have every day. We are competing not only against emails but also our personal devices, where we have Facebook and Twitter, Instagram, all these things. And I think that is the biggest challenge, to me at least. And I think that probably it will remain that way because clutter is not going down, right? And it's not only to connect with the person but also to connect meaningfully. And hence,
Right.
I feel that there's also great opportunity there because it will. This particular challenge should keep us on our toes, keep our approach fresh, and also it should drive us to experiment with different ways to approach the problem,
Right.
um, and how we approach communication, how we approach storytelling, for instance, how we talk to people. So yeah.
Fantastic. And related to that, what do you think is the biggest opportunity you see?
Biggest opportunity, of course, I think one, as I mentioned, I think the challenge, of course, is a breeding ground for opportunity. But I think apart from that, there are many opportunities. Maybe the most recent thing that I can think of is with COVID-19, and we are all in a lockdown. We are all dabbling with a lot of virtual technology, right?
Right.
You are things like this,
Yeah.
and we've seen a spike in webinars and things like that. But I feel that this is just the beginning, and I feel that there will be a lot of investment in the way we interact virtually with people, and I think that that is a great place to start and think about how we can connect with people more virtually. There are talks, of course. I mean, in various research papers, we are seeing that even beyond COVID, people might work from home and things like that. So I feel that that is one area that has immense opportunity. And when I say interact digitally, I don't not only mean the technology, but I think also the way we write. Right? We're talking in digital formats, the way we write will change. And
Absolutely.
the amount of things we write will change. Will it be more video? How will we use more abbreviations? Will the language be more millennial? I don't know. I'm just saying that these are options that we should be open for.
Right.
Um, and um, and I'll just add a third angle to it, is that now that we have digital technology, another opportunity that I see is communication will be more social, right? And that means that there will be immense power um, uh, on employee advocacy, because now employees have tools to talk about what they feel about the company, and
Right.
they are the most trusted voices, and I feel that there we have a great opportunity.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's a great point about advocacy. And no,
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, I think that's a great valid point about advocacy. It's like the most powerful thing, but it's probably untapped.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I feel that with technology, it will change. I also feel that there's a way in the way we communicate, right? But because if you see in many organizations, still it's mostly one way. You send a
Yeah.
newsletter, you
Yeah.
send an email. I think until we build communities, we would not be able to leverage it.
Got it. Got it. Great point. And there's this thought that internal communication doesn't really get a seat at the table, and so what is your thinking about how can internal communicators add more value to the business?
Yeah, that's always the golden question in whenever we meet, right? I mean, like internal communicators, we always talk about the fact that are people taking us seriously? So, but I feel that as organizations evolve, they will see the value of internal communications. And I'm not saying that just because I am working in a place where communication as such has a seat on the table, but I think that as organizations evolve, they see the value in it. The
Correct.
the number of employees grow, and that kind of grows the importance of you connecting with them,
Right.
and they have the power to change so many things. They are in charge of your product, right?
Right.
In charge of your culture, and
Mm.
I feel that will happen. But I would also like to say that we have, as communicators, I think we have a very, very big responsibility,
Mm.
because I think that it's also our own onus to kind of present the function as such, right? We have
Got
to, we are responsible to change their minds,
it. Mm.
and by showing them the value, right?
Mm.
And I think that we probably are at a very position. Not mostly internal communication is close to the leadership. Either it's reporting directly or reporting to say another function which is right close to the senior leadership.
Mm.
But also the fact that we collaborate across all the functions. So I think we have a very good visibility about like the bigger picture. So
Mm.
I feel that both these things combined have a lot of power to create programs that are cross-functional, create
Mm.
programs that are interdisciplinary,
Mm.
and also impact at scale. And that is also something which I think is a great opportunity for us communicators.
Great point. And what according to you, are some of the key skills that internal communicators need, and what should they develop or hone? So, what is your thinking around skills for internal communicators?
Hmm. Um, well, a couple of things. I think first I'll borrow this word called sharpen your saw from Stephen Covey.
Right.
Right. I think that that's really important. It stands, lest we get complacent about, our skills. It is really important to understand that, we are communicators for different kinds of people, and hence our styles should change.
Absolutely.
And hence we should have the flexibility to adapt to different styles.
Mm.
In addition, we should also adapt to various technologies, right?
Got it.
Because world of language and the world of technology both are changing, and I think that we should have a sharpen our saw against both these grinding wheels, if I may call it that.
Got it.
The second, I guess, is to be strategic in our approach, and
Mm.
that is strategic as against operational,
Mm.
which many times we end up being.
Mm.
But strategic, we can. That's only possible when we really take interest in knowing the business,
Right.
knowing the organization. That is really important, because unless we do that, we cannot be trusted advisors to the to the leadership, which
Mm.
is if we don't do that, then we will
Mm.
never have a seat at the table.
Got it.
And I don't know, maybe third is again related to this. This I think I also mentioned in the last response,
Mm.
is that I think there has to be we have to be open to collaborate between various functions,
Mm.
because only then can we impact at scale.
Got it. Got it. Great point. So there are a lot of these youngsters and also, of course, professionals who want to join internal communication and make a career. So what's your, recommendation, advice for them?
Hmm. Um, Well, I think it's so. I think it's uh, internal communications. I think needs very specific skills, right?
Mm.
And this is a difficult question to answer because um, there are many young aspirants that I've spoken with,
Mm-hmm.
um, and a lot of them are good writers,
Mm.
right? And they are, they have a creative bent of mind, and of course that is needed.
Right.
Um, and but over time, and I know that I was also one of them at one point.
Mm.
Over time, I've also realized that it is there's a huge chunk of it which is not about writing or creativity. It is about the business, and it is about listening, right? And
Mm.
I think those are certain skills that people should be focused on. So, and that is again only possible through really experiencing it. So if
Mm.
if somebody who's in college is
Mm.
thinking about corporate communication,
Mm.
the best thing that person can do is to actually do and go into an organization, work for somebody, work for the function, understand what it takes,
Mm.
because it is not just writing. It
Mm.
is not just writing social posts. It is
Mm.
not about making videos. It's about knowing the business and approaching it with a solutions approach, that I'm creating this thing, and this is a solution to this particular problem,
Mm.
or a challenge. So that is one. I think, of course, there probably are people who are already working and they want to kind of shift. I would maybe tell them to take stretch assignments or speak with the corp communication function. Maybe try to help them in cross-functional projects. I think that's
Mm.
the only way to really understand what it entails, and then maybe take an informed decision to go into it. So yeah.
Great point. So, yeah, I know you alluded to the COVID-19 situation, but I just wanted to also touch upon, what do you think is going to change dramatically in the way internal communication happens? And, what can internal communicators do to reassure employees and to make it more meaningful and relevant?
Yeah. I think that's a very important question at this time, and a lot of us are struggling with this crisis. We are adapting to the new normal.
Mm.
I think, and I'm sure that you would know, and most of our communication, fellow people would know that for communicators, especially, it's a very critical time, because this is the time where we keep them engaged, inspired. Um, what will change? I feel that because of the new normal, there is a renewed focus
Mm.
on how we communicate with employees, and
Right.
that I feel can accelerate a lot of things.
Correct.
Hence, although I understand this is a challenging time, but I would also encourage myself and whoever's listening to this to also think about what opportunities this time
Mm.
can give you, because
Mm.
there's a need. Employees need to be connected. They have a need to be inspired. They are working from home, balancing work and life. Many of us have children.
Mm.
Things get difficult, but at the same time, and again, this is adding to the clutter that I was talking about. How
Right.
do you kind of navigate that? And I'm sure that, A, because we have a renewed interest, and B, because hopefully there'll be more investments in technology.
Mm.
Feel that this would be a great opportunity for us to really impress upon. Yeah.
Great. And I know you mentioned digital, booming at the stage. So, is there any other trend apart from, the digital wave which is happening, and anything which comes to your mind, which strikes you about internal communication specifically?
Any other? Uh, Nothing that comes to mind. In addition to, whatever I've said, I'm not too sure if I want to add anything new there. I feel technology will evolve at its own pace.
Mm.
Um, you know, a lot of people are talking about how that will change, right? I don't know. I'm just guesswork, right? Five years down the line, you might really have virtual reality. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And how would communication be then?
Mm.
And so things like that. So, but I would love to stick to the fact that it is always about um, about being intuitive about the style of writing, being really aware of who you're talking to,
Mm.
and being extremely proficient with the platform you're using to communicate with. If we
Mm.
have these three things in place,
Right.
it kind of takes care of itself.
Fantastic. And as we wrap up, Ritwik, just wanted to also ask you, if you were to look back on your career and if there was one thing you wanted to change about internal communications, what would that be?
Okay. Well, I think this is something that we discussed earlier, and this is not really in reference with my career as such. I think that when we started off in internal communications, we may have seen that not much importance is given to it, but I
Mm.
feel that organizations are moving in that direction. I think
Mm.
one thing that that should change, as as we talked about earlier, is about it being a strategic function and having a seat at the table.
Right.
But when I say change, I would like to again reiterate that the change can be only driven by us, right?
Mm.
Communication professionals, we have the onus to drive that change.
Mm.
By and we can only do that when we lead by example. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Great. I think that's a great way to end and, leading by example, as you mentioned. So thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate you. I think this great insights, and I'm sure our viewers will value a lot of the, inputs that you've given. Thank you so much for taking the
Thank you
time.
so much, Anish. Have a great day, and thank you for inviting me to this. Thank you.